Mexican boxing legend Julio Cesar Chavez told Andrew Tate, "You're not a real warrior, you're just a social media toy." The 89 KO champion dismissed his kickboxing background completely. However, Tate's display of ring IQ and respect for Latin culture would make the legend shout, "Respect, brother." Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel to see all the details of this extraordinary boxing legend confrontation. Julio Cesar Chavez was one of boxing's greatest names. Born in Culiacan, Mexico in 1962, Chavez made history with 107 victories, 86 knockouts, 6 defeats, and 2 draws. Known as El Cesar de Boxing, the legend had gone undefeated for 13 years. Chavez's fighting style was unmatched. His left hook was deadly, his defense impenetrable, his conditioning limitless. But most importantly, he possessed the true spirit of a guerrero, warrior. The Mexican champion didn't just throw punches, he broke his opponent's spirits. At 62 years old, Chavez was no longer actively boxing, but his ring knowledge and experience hadn't diminished. He specialized in mentoring young warriors, teaching the true art of boxing. However, in recent years, he had developed great anger towards social media phenomenon kickboxers. "These kids don't know real fighting," he would often say. "They're just concerned with showing off. They have no real warrior spirit." Chavez had a simple philosophy. Real champions are made in pain, not in front of cameras. He believed that social media had corrupted the pure spirit of combat sports. There was another side to Andrew Tate that the public didn't fully know about. Before starting his kickboxing career, at age 16, he had also been involved in amateur boxing and had even briefly competed in the English Amateur Boxing Federation. Additionally, throughout his kickboxing career, he had constantly watched boxing legends, analyzing their tactics. He had watched Julio Cesar Chavez's fights from the 1990s dozens of times. Chavez's pressure fighting style had played a major role in developing Tate's own kickboxing style. Tate also had deep respect for Latin culture. While living in Romania, he had learned Spanish and researched Latin American history. The concept of guerrero held an important place in his personal philosophy. For the past 2 years, he had also been taking private boxing training. His goal was to become a knowledgeable warrior in all martial arts, not just kickboxing. Most people didn't know that Tate had studied boxing psychology extensively. He understood what separated great fighters from good ones. It wasn't just physical ability, but mental warfare. The confrontation was organized for a sports program called Combat Legends. The show brought together names from different fighting backgrounds, uniting them on a discussion and analysis platform. When producers invited Andrew Tate, they were curious about what kind of attitude he would display against old legends. Julio Cesar Chavez participated as a guest on the program, saying, "I'll teach these social media kids real boxing." The media marketed this confrontation as old school versus new school. Most people thought Chavez would easily intimidate Tate. The show's concept was simple: test whether modern fighters had the same heart and knowledge as the legends of the past. The Combat Legends studio in Las Vegas was the stage for a historic moment. In the ring-shaped studio, 2 legends would face off. Julio Cesar Chavez sat with his usual proud posture, wearing a black shirt with the Mexican flag embroidered on it. Andrew Tate arrived in a simple navy suit, appearing calm but determined. When he approached Chavez, he spoke in English. "Mr. Chavez, it's an honor to meet a legend." Chavez was surprised. Most young fighters today didn't approach him with such respect, but he was still distant. "You speak with respect. Most young fighters today have no manners." "I've studied your culture and have deep respect for Mexican warriors," Tate replied. This response softened Chavez, but he was still suspicious. The studio audience, mostly boxing fans, watched with anticipation. Many expected this to be a one-sided verbal beatdown. When the program began, the moderator asked Chavez, "Julio, what do you think about Andrew Tate?" Chavez didn't hesitate. "This kid is not a real fighter. He's just a social media toy. Kickboxing is not boxing. Real fighting is face-to-face without protection." The atmosphere in the studio became tense. Tate remained calm. "Mr. Chavez, I respect your opinion, but I think you don't know my full story." "What story?" Chavez asked in a mocking tone. "I started with boxing before kickboxing," Tate replied, "and I've studied your fights my entire life." The audience murmured with interest. This wasn't the response they expected from a social media personality. Chavez looked skeptical. "My fights?" Tate smiled and went into surprising detail. "Your fight against Meldrick Taylor in 1990. Round 12, final minute. Taylor was winning on points, but you never stopped pressuring. Your famous left hook 2 seconds before the end." Chavez's eyebrows furrowed. This was very specific knowledge. "Continue." "Taylor's defense was very good, but you constantly wore him down with body shots. From the 11th round, his breathing pattern had changed. You noticed this and focused on the head in the 12th round." Silence fell over the studio. This was the kind of analysis only true boxing experts could make. Tate continued, "Champion, your pressure-fighting style shaped my kickboxing career. Distance control, timing, cornering the opponent." The boxing experts in the audience were beginning to take notice. This level of detailed fight analysis was impressive. Chavez was now giving his full attention. "How do you know all this?" "Because you are my hero," Tate replied sincerely. "Every night I would watch your fights. Your conditioning, your mental toughness, your never-give-up attitude inspired me." This confession impressed Chavez. No one had ever given him such detailed analysis. "Besides," Tate continued, "I also come from humble origins. I understand the warrior mentality." Chavez's facial expression began to change. This wasn't the superficial celebrity he had expected. Tate was showing genuine knowledge and respect. The moderator tried to increase the tension. "Andrew, do you think kickboxing is more effective than boxing?" Tate replied diplomatically. "No, every martial art has its own value, but Mr. Chavez's pure boxing is the most artistic and most difficult. In kickboxing, you have legs, you have clinch. In boxing, you only have your hands and your mind." This response impressed Chavez. "That's correct." Tate went deeper. "Mexican boxing isn't just about technique. It's about heart and pride. The reason you're called El Cesar isn't just technique, it's your leadership spirit." Chavez began to smile. "You understand the culture." The shift in Chavez's demeanor was noticeable to everyone in the studio. His initial hostility was melting away. Chavez wanted to test Tate. "Well, if you understand so much, what is my greatest strength?" Tate answered without thinking, "Your ability to break your opponent's will." "How?" "Most boxers only give physical damage, but you applied psychological warfare, constant pressure, body shots, making opponents' breathing difficult. After round 8 to 9, your opponent would surrender not just physically, but mentally." Chavez stood up. "Exactly. Nobody understands this. And that's why you're the greatest pressure fighter. Ali's speed, Tyson's power are famous, but your relentless pressure is unique." Tate also stood up. The studio audience was witnessing something special. A genuine meeting of minds between two fighters from different eras. Chavez placed his hand on Tate's shoulder. "You know what, brother? You have the heart of a warrior." Everyone in the studio was amazed. Chavez never accepted anyone this quickly. "But," Chavez continued, "social media is damaging you. You're a real fighter, but you're playing games with fake people." Tate nodded. "You're right, Maestro. Sometimes I get lost in the noise, but my heart, my spirit, that's real." This moment of vulnerability impressed Chavez even more. Here was someone willing to acknowledge his mistakes. Chavez smiled. "Look, kickboxing and boxing are different, but the warrior spirit is the same." "Yes, sir. It's about never surrender, never give up." The two warriors embraced. Everyone in the studio applauded. This wasn't just about fighting anymore. It was about mutual recognition between two people who understood what it meant to be a true competitor. Chavez spoke his final words to the program. "This young man, he's not a fake fighter. He has the soul of a warrior. Maybe his path is different, but his heart is true." Tate also responded, "Mr. Chavez is not just a champion. He is a master, a true leader. Today I learned more than technique. I learned about honor, about respect." The moderator, clearly moved by what had transpired, asked, "What's next for both of you?" Chavez looked at Tate. Maybe this young warrior can teach me about the modern world, and I can teach him about the old ways. After the program aired, the boxing world was shocked. Julio Cesar Chavez, accepting a kickboxer to this extent, was unprecedented in history. A commentator on ESPN said, "Chavez has been very selective throughout his career. Calling Andrew Tate brother shows that he recognized his true warrior spirit." Mexican sports media also reacted positively. El Cesar never makes mistakes about a fighter's heart. Tate's Latin American fans multiplied. #RespectBrother #trended. Boxing forums exploded with discussion about the encounter. Many veteran fighters commented on how rare it was to see such genuine respect between different fighting disciplines. After this confrontation, Tate's image in Latin America completely changed. He was no longer seen as just a controversial influencer, but as a respected warrior. Chavez also began mentoring Tate. "If you want to be a true champion, you have to understand the soul of a boxer," he would say. The two began training together occasionally, with Chavez teaching Tate traditional boxing fundamentals, while Tate shared insights about modern combat sports marketing and global reach. Their friendship became a symbol of how respect could bridge generational and cultural gaps in combat sports. This confrontation was a perfect example of how cultural bridges could be built. Two warriors from different worlds had found each other through respect and understanding. Julio Cesar Chavez had set aside prejudices and seen Tate's true character. Andrew Tate had won a legend's heart through humility and cultural respect. This story teaches us, real strength lies not in defeating others, but in showing them respect. And most importantly, the warrior spirit is not limited by any culture or fighting style. The encounter became a case study in how authentic respect could transcend generational differences and create unexpected alliances. Thank you for watching all the details of this magnificent boxing legend confrontation. If this story inspired you about respect and understanding from different cultures, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Share in the comments the sports legends that inspire you. See you in our next video with other impressive stories that tell the universal language of the warrior spirit.